Welcome to the Making of YOR, a podcast where we turn ideas into game mechanics for our upcoming tabletop RPG, YOR. If you'd like to stay up to date on the developments of YOR, head over to our Discord. Link is in the description. Alrighty, so we just need to shore up a few more things, I think, and we'll be able to
make characters and have them beat each other up.
Yeah, do a little something at tier 1.
Yeah.
We need to work on professions, even though a lot of that won't really be relevant.
Yeah.
But
have them. We
still need to make them because they're part of character creation. And then we've rethought spells
several times.
Our current iteration, I think, is the best one, and I think we're going to go with. But now we need to actually make spells. We know kind of how they work, but we need to actually make effects.
Yeah, we got to have spells to pick, not just, they should be able to do stuff like this.
Yeah, we need to make real ones. So I guess let's start with professions and talk a little bit about that.
All right.
And then we can go to spells. And
sounds good to me.
On those. So we made a list of professions already. We just have no idea what any of them do. We got 13 professions. Well, I guess we know what guard does.
Yeah.
Guard as a profession is you can remain on guard while resting, and you can rest in armor with no penalty, which is pretty cool. I don't know if we're going to keep that, but that's pretty cool. But we got a lot more stereotypical professions. No idea. So number 1 is blacksmithing or blacksmith.
Okay. So the background little job profession things are what your character did before they became an adventure.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, to some extent, they're going to have a narrative impact.
Yeah,
you might be able to refer to your profession when talking to a certain individual or interacting with a tradesman.
Yeah, it's downtime stuff that other adventurers probably don't know how to do because they did something different before they decided to become a murder hobo.
Yeah, exactly. But the question is, do we give effects? And if we do, what kind of effects do we want you to get from having?
I like the guard one just because it feels thematic and pretty simple.
Yeah, I don't really think there needs to be a whole lot of complexity because I feel like profession... Yeah. I think
most of them are skills. They have dots and you can roll against them whenever you are in a scenario where you can argue that your profession would help.
Yeah. And I guess they could act as assist skills to skill checks if we come up with some system that interrelates there. I don't know if we want to do that, but that's some 3.5 stuff. Assist skills. I don't know if we want that, but I guess they could just let you perform.
Yeah, I imagine the professions are very narrow but deep skills. Rolling blacksmithing gets you a lot more info about a sword than rolling general knowledge on a sword.
Sure.
But it'll give you stuff about how it was made, what it's made of, where it might be from, stuff like that.
So do we want these skills related to a profession? If we're going to call them that, they're essentially a skill related to a profession. Will this be the only way that you could roll for this skill is you have to have chosen that profession? Or, I mean, I guess obviously a lot of the things that you would roll, I guess this is how it should work. A lot of the things that you might roll will be a different type of check. They would fall under a category, but if you have this skill, it lets you do something special with the check. You
get better results out of it.
Yeah. Okay. So if we approach it that way, and then give some type of minor buff, I guess, or minor.
Like the guards thing.
The guards thing, which then also might let you could argue for.
Let you figure out who's acting suspicious or whether people are following you or staying awake at night.
Yeah, maybe contextually specific. This might put a little weight on the DM because, of course, some of these you might try to overinterpret and be like, no, it's not as effective as perception.
Yeah.
Having the or whatever we call perception in this, having awareness.
Awareness, yeah.
Yeah, having proficiency in awareness is obviously more valuable than having proficiency in guard because it's going to have way more uses. But guard might let you do something very specific niche.
Yeah, awareness is going to let you see the mountain lion that's trying to stalk you from like attacking you. And guard will let you figure out that you're being followed by gangs. They are similar, but they don't do the same thing.
Yeah. Well, awareness.
You could roll
do
awareness
that too.
for both,
Yeah.
but you can only roll guard for one.
Yeah. Okay.
But if you're not proficient in awareness and you are proficient in guard, still better than nothing.
Yeah.
You should not be non-proficient in awareness.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I mean,
That is a quick way to die as an adventurer, not see things.
Yeah. It is a really valuable skill, especially because in our game, a surprise round is they all get to go first, whichever side. So in the potential for surprise, awareness becomes, it could be a TPK kind of skill.
Yeah, it's if they get the drop on you in a bad tactical way, you could be hosed, especially if you're a tier 1 adventurer with 6 hit points.
Yeah. Real bad stuff here.
Blacksmith. So what does a blacksmith do that is useful for adventuring? What could, having been in a forge smith's apprentice?
It could, we don't really have damage stuff like weapon damage.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I want to add a granularity like that. I've never liked that.
I'd be way more interested in having it work into the crafting system that we also still have to make.
Yes. Yeah, we need to make a crafting system and we need to make an enchanting system. And to be honest, almost all of these could play into a crafting thing, except for like farmer, doctor, guard, and merchant.
Yeah.
Basically every other one has the potential to play into a crafting system.
Yeah.
And obviously doctor and merchant and guard have really clear things that they're useful at doing too.
Yeah.
I don't know that we have a medicine skill right now, which is for making potions and poisons, but it doesn't specifically fall in our current definition as a diagnosis skill.
No.
So,
well, it could.
I think it could.
Yeah, I don't know that there's
medicine.
Much difference between brewing a potion and being an EMT in adventure world.
Yes, and what I mean from that though is it's one of those scenarios in which it would be overlap. Like you could roll medicine, but I suspect you.
Well, if you wanted to treat a person, you'd probably roll medicine or doctor. If you wanted to make a potion, you'd only roll medicine. If you wanted to treat 1,000 people, you'd probably need to roll doctor.
Yes, I agree with that. Doctor might have certain advantages, though, in certain niche scenarios. Let's say like let's say you are narratively diagnosing an unknown.
Yeah, you're trying to figure out the cause of a plague.
Yeah, you're trying to figure out the cause. Doctor might arguably be more effective.
Medicine would tell you the symptoms. Doctor would tell you like infection vectors and
we assume
they're drinking out of a well that's got shit in it.
Yeah. We could do it that way, and I think that's best. Even though the inherent, like you might say, well, why not just say if you have the doctor profession, you get the medicine skill. You can't do that with every single one of these professions.
It's because not every doctor is like, making potions and stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of them do, but not every one of them.
Yeah. So I don't think we should. I don't think they should inherently connect that way. We'll go back to blacksmithing and start with that. So blacksmithing, it will let you make checks related to weapons and armor.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe knowledge checks or something like that.
I'd say any material made of metal.
Any material in blacksmithing?
Yeah. Knowledge, metal lore. Taking the blacksmithing profession gives you knowledge metal lore, knowledge heat lore.
Yes. Okay. So basically, like a
knowledge sweeping.
Metallurgy. Knowledge metallurgy.
Yeah.
Will probably play into a crafting system, which we don't know what skills are going to be related. Because the current skill breakdown doesn't handle crafting.
Yeah.
And we haven't discussed if we want tool proficiencies or do we want the proficiencies related to a crafting thing to directly come from
Yeah,
profession.
I think they're just going to have those things there, and we don't have to worry about tool proficiencies as much.
So really, if you want to be involved in weapon or armor crafting, you need to have the blacksmith profession.
Yeah, or pick up a boon that gives you a profession.
Okay, yeah. We might have an alternative method like that.
Yeah. But I feel like if you put in enough work in game, the DM can give you a bonus profession as a boon. That feels like the right place to put that.
Yeah, I think it would be a standard boon, and it just falls under, if that's something you spend time on,
It's
being
a
an
reward you can
apprentice,
get.
then yeah. To be honest, we could even have like a system for the DM to use that doesn't really give you anything, but it just says if you're doing this thing, the DM might say, all right, you have the apprentice woodworker boon. It doesn't give you anything right now, but if you continue on this, you're going to gain woodworker as a profession. Like then it's like the knowledge of like, oh, so me doing this, it gains me a thing.
Yeah.
That being an apprentice woodworker doesn't really let me make any checks, but it indicates to me that this action that I'm taking is growing to something.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Yeah. Boons, baby.
Boons are the best.
They're so cool. They're right up there with hero points.
Yeah. Okay. We might, I don't know if we want to keep this one. We have a profession as alchemy, but then we have brewer as well.
Yeah, I feel like we can get rid of alchemy, especially since we put medicine in.
Yeah, we got medicine
We
as
have
a
an
skill.
alchemist as a witch class and medicine as a skill. I feel like we can nuke
I think so too.
alchemy as a skill.
Alchemy as a profession.
As a profession, yeah.
Yeah, we'll just say brewer, and brewer profession.
Yeah. Makes alcohol.
Makes alcohol, and making actual potions requires the greater medicine skill.
Yes. People with the medicine skill know how to make like isopropyl cleaning wood alcohol,
Yeah.
not the drinking kind of alcohol.
Should we have something that says like a brewer? So if you have like the medicine skill and the brewer profession, maybe there's like special potions that you can make.
Yeah, maybe some synergy there.
Yeah, there's like a synergistic thing.
Yeah, not like a bonus or whatever, but you just get access to do more stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what that'll be, but I like that.
Yeah.
Promote synergy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll just put can be combined with medicine skill to create something.
Cool.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But more
Hashtag
options
synergy.
and also maybe there's something else. Maybe it could be like a harder to detect poison.
Yeah.
Like if you're a brewer and
I was thinking like your ingredients are cheaper.
you could be, I don't know. I don't know. We'll spitball that later.
Yeah, we'll come up with something.
There's a lot of things I think we could do of trying to like, well, why would a brewer, like if you were if you're a doctor and on the side, you're a potion maker, but on the side, you also like to make beer.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? What special knowledge might
Do
you
you
have
have?
with your foot in both those doors?
Yeah. I mean, you definitely make beer that fixes people.
Oh, so you're like a snake oil salesman, but not actually.
Yeah,
Like,
like if a snake oil salesman actually had magic. If it was oil from magic snakes.
yeah. Okay.
Man, snake oil salesman has got to have like a different connotation in like a fantasy context
Yeah.
when like snake oil might be real.
Yeah. All right. So, woodworker.
I feel like there should be a cool, like, you know how Romans used to build a fort every evening,
Oh, sure.
stay in it, and then
Yeah.
burn it down when they left.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a cool thing to tie into woodworker eventually.
Yeah. So, because woodworker, we've got woodworker and we've got mason, which obviously both
Yeah.
could play into the idea
Yeah.
of construction knowledge.
Yeah.
But of course, masonry can't be accomplished overnight.
Yeah, it's much longer.
But they would have separate knowledge checks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'd get different stuff rolling knowledge from the same building as a mason and as a woodworker.
You could have something like a woodworker check might give you a advantage on like knocking down a wooden door.
Yeah, or like taking apart, sabotaging furniture, bows, things like that. And then masonry is going to be like, you know, stone and caverns, and
Yeah.
like you're going to know more about rocks and how they appear in the earth and what kind of landforms they show around, and then how sturdy that building is, and how to make an arch. And
yeah,
they're going to be more, geology and architecture focused on the rock side. How to give people gnarly chemical burns with concrete.
Really making that mason skill big.
Yeah. Stuff masons would know in a fantasy universe where everybody's hyper competent.
Except for the tier 0 characters.
Yeah, except for the non-adventurers. You still suck.
The hyper incompetent. Yeah, tier 0 characters, there's always a lot of them. The tier 0 in a world, or what you would call like level 1 humans, right? In like a D&D world.
Commoners,
not level 1. Commoners. They are worse than people.
Yeah, they are subhuman.
They really
statistically.
are. Statistically, they are lower than human. Because
when
humans
you're in
are
a
not
literal life or death fight with your house cat.
Yeah, I was gonna say humans are not at risk of dying to a house cat.
No, I feel like I could take on any house cat in the country.
Yeah,
but not a commoner.
No, not a commoner. It's risky. So on Woodworker, we got a skill check, but what would that be? So crafting, maybe for creating temporary dwellings.
I would say like you can make in the crafting system, you can make any tier 1 basic item over the course of a long rest. Sort of like the dwarves have that stone singing thing we talked about on Tuesday. Yeah. You can just like make arrows or a bow or a paddle or a cutting board or a shack, stuff like that. Whittling hobby.
Okay, how about jeweler?
All right. Gemstone appraisal, setting gems, fine metal work.
Yeah, I like most of that.
They probably tie more into the enchanting system and the crafting system.
Yeah, and I don't know if I think that there won't be necessarily a connection between them, rather just yet again a synergy.
Yeah,
if you
something about like making spell reagents and stuff.
Potentially,
yeah.
I mean, jewelers tend to have some chemical knowledge.
Yeah, well, I'm more thinking like somebody's got to get that powdered diamond dust to the wizard somehow.
Oh, sure.
Necromancer's got to have onyx to raise undead.
Oh yeah, so yeah. We hadn't even talked about whether or not we would require spell components.
I think anything that gives you like permanent effects costs money.
Okay. Permanent effects require
sacrifice.
Yeah, require material.
Yeah, you can set somebody on fire basically with the power of your mind. But if you want to bring that person back as a dead body, you got to fork it over.
Or bring them back as a live body.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah, it's you want to make them walk around again. On a permanent basis, you're going to have to pay up, bud.
Yeah. Okay.
Pay your charred corpse tax.
I like that. I've always thought the, like pretty much like all spells having a material component was weighty.
Yeah.
And unnecessary. So I think I like the idea of us just delineating along some line that says these spells do something exceptional. Therefore, they require a material component. And then, of course, other game systems, it's like monetary.
Yeah.
Like, this requires a much more expensive component. But if the component isn't expensive, then I think it's just silly to worry about it. Just say you don't need one.
You don't need this. You don't need a mirror and some copper wire to read somebody's thoughts.
Yeah.
But if you need a pair of dragon lungs, you got to go get those.
Yeah, you need those for real. Okay, so jeweler, fine metal crafting, jewelry appraisal.
Yeah.
Turning gemstones into spell components.
Perfect.
Alrighty, mason.
Break stuff.
Yes, clearly break stuff. So it could be a special skill check, which of course basically all of them are getting a special skill check.
Yeah, which feels appropriate.
Yeah, which feels appropriate. I don't know which one of these is going to get. I think actually, I was thinking about would one of them get be able to detect poisons and stuff, but I think that's just medicine skill.
Yeah, I think so.
If you want to detect poisons in something, it's the medicine skill. But
or I guess a good enough awareness check.
But yeah, that's more of the insight check of that guy would poison me.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's this thing smells like bitter almonds.
Yeah. This thing smells funky. Is it just something you don't like that smells weird?
Yeah.
Did the wine get a little vinegary, or is it a poison?
Yeah. Is that poison, or is it just broccoli?
Yeah.
Boiled asparagus, my favorite.
All right. Mason gets a special skill check, obviously related to masonry. So you could be like
Stonework.
finding a weakness in a wall.
Yeah.
Or
rock lore.
Yeah, basically. Well, I think that the special skill check for Mason, well, I guess it wouldn't have to just apply to worked stone.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like it should. But do we have a skill check that would? We don't have like a knowledge geology, although I think it would fall under
general knowledge.
General knowledge would be a check that would cover it. But I guess we could let Mason fall to both worked and unworked stone.
Yeah, it's because, I assume the masons are the same one who are carving it out of the quarry.
Certainly. Yeah, or at least it's the same guild.
Yeah, they work for the same guy.
Yeah.
Knowledge rocks, knowledge architecture.
Yeah. I like seeding them that way as not because too many skills in your skill section is weighty.
Yep.
And being like, no, you can't pick these skills. If you want these skills,
they're jobs.
If they're under the profession tag, I think the benefit of it is that overall they're less valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's good to avoid trap options. Like when you're picking off the list of skills, these skills are all substantial.
Mm-hmm. They do a lot of stuff.
You're going to use them a lot, which is why there's only like 10 or 11 of them.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Is because you're going to use these a lot. So if you pick one, it's valuable. The skills existing within the professions are more niche. It's not that you won't use them or that they couldn't have a really valuable effect.
Mm-hmm.
It's just when you're taking skills, and a lot of times, and especially 3.5 was really bad about it.
Yeah.
When you're selecting skills in 3.5, there's a lot of options that are like, man, you might play most of a game and use that skill once.
Yep. It's, man, you had to dump your skill points in there, didn't you?
Yeah. You're going to use persuasion and your perception or whatever it's called, or listen.
Yeah, listen and spot.
Listen and spot and persuasion, man. You're going to use those a lot.
Yeah.
Or diplomacy.
Yeah, the good old diplomancer.
Yep, the diplomancer.
All right, I'm going to roll diplomacy. I'm going to get 138. They're already friendly, so that makes them fanatical.
And now this army of demons serves me.
Yeah, they all have +2 to attack. Don't forget that part.
Yeah.
Every little bit helps.
No.
When you
I'm sorry, it wasn't 138. My skill check was 140. I forgot that I had a
right. I get
skill.
that first. I can do it to myself because I took a thing.
Yeah.
I count as my own ally.
Yeah. Too much. All right. So Mason, special skill, worked or unworked stone. And then are we going to something with crafting? Although, most of the time this isn't something you could achieve in a normal downtime if you're traveling.
No, I feel like theirs lets them make more money off of stuff they sell.
Like what? What might they sell?
If they build a house and the going rate for a house is 100 gold, a mason would get 110.
So Mason only would really become useful in the context of you're going to play a game where you guys pretty much stay in the same city for a while so that...
Well, I mean, not necessarily, but they could go out and start working on a building or a border fort for a local lord. And while they're out doing that, the masons helping run the architecture of building this thing, and they get it for cheaper and he makes more money off of doing it. I don't know, something, but more efficiency in building. Yeah.
Well, it's hard to cut Mason out as a profession.
Yeah.
It has to exist there. It's just also to create it's a little hard to create a really functional skill in the life of an adventurer.
Yeah.
Compared to some of these others. But I think the skill check is likely to be used quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Related to worked and unworked
secret
stone.
Doors, things like that.
I think, that will become maybe more relevant than most of the other special skill checks.
Yeah.
Anytime you're in a dungeon, the Mason
people
special...
who spend a lot of time underground are inherently better at delving dungeons.
Yeah.
You spend your life designing secret doors, it's easier to spot them from others.
Yeah, so I think the Mason skill check becomes potentially more valuable than a lot of the others. So
No, don't go in there. It's a rock fall. Put the same one in 98. Pain in the ass to install, but they crush invaders like nobody's business. Like the old contractor walking through criticizing somebody else's work, as is tradition.
Okay. So Mason, what I've got right now is Mason special skill check, worked or unworked stone.
Yeah.
And can manage the construction of stone dwellings.
All right.
There's, that's something of a like needs work.
Yeah. It gives us the vibe of what he needs, but it's not exactly character sheet ready.
No, because something like that, and the same thing with Woodworker, the idea of crafting dwellings.
Yeah.
I think the quality of a dwelling has to affect the time frame, the size and quality.
I don't know, maybe it's like guild rates or something. So whenever they buy materials, they get a discount.
Yeah, that might work. Except for in the case of both, especially Mason.
Yeah.
Buying those kinds of materials, you would get a special discount buying materials from a Mason, like from that guild.
Well,
so
I think of it as more the people who quarry stone having a relationship with the Masons Guild because they all pay dues to the same entity. So they have a better buy rate. They're a preferred customer because he's in the Masons Guild too.
Oh, sure. But that's only going to be for buying certain items, I suspect, or certain like stone and stuff like that.
Yeah. I assume it only works on stone, but just having a corporate discount.
Yeah.
The 10% off from Walmart works for any employee at any store.
Yeah, that may not. I don't know that we want to make that a part of. That won't be a part of the woodworkers.
No.
So that'll exist for the mason and
merchant, probably
the merchant, and maybe the blacksmith. And no,
blacksmiths are more independent.
You're right, they are. Mason's the one that we have here that's very guildish.
Yeah, well, and they're the only ones that really hung around until the modern day.
Yeah.
Not a lot of masons do woodwork anymore, but that's why they're called masons.
Yeah.
Or stonework anymore, but
yeah, sure. Okay, so Tailor.
Hide stuff in clothes.
They can make clothing modifications.
Yeah, well, it's clothing modifications, hide and spot stuff easier in clothes, spiff up an outfit before a courtly appearance. Resize arms and armor.
Well, sure, they could, but not necessarily like armor.
Well, I mean, they can't make the armor. They can't make the blacksmith, but they can take the straps out of it and pull it apart. And
yeah, I meant, this was originally meant for a medium creature and saying now I can make it for a small creature.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So Tailor will get, alteration of clothing. You can make hidden pouches and stuff like that. And then some type of quality of life buff.
Yeah. Like they can walk further in a day because their backpack doesn't chafe and their underwear doesn't have any holes in it, or
just
like
whatever.
that.
Life is better when you have a Tailor, and so you get some type of flat,
minor but tangible buff,
which I think is a good system, and it also kind of sets a precedent for some of the other ones that I think, like Chef, which might logically
have a similar buff,
have something that functions in a similar way. So then, speaking of Chef,
all right. So anything to do with like ingredients or cooking, and then like a hearty meal, and then whenever you finish a rest, then you just start with 2 extra bonus hit points.
Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, we could flesh that system out to have something that would allow for not a whole lot more hit points, but you could flesh something out that has like, if you have particularly good ingredients or something, you might be able to get another hit point or 2 or something.
If you make it out of a tier 4 maybe it's you get a number of bonus hit points equal to the tier of monster you use to make the meal.
Oh yeah. Got to get that manticore meat.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. I like that. That's nice flavor and a tangible buff.
Yeah, and it's not a lot of hit points for one person, but for a whole party to get that many extra.
Yeah, no, agreed. And, it also means that like when someone's like, I really want to have the chef background because I want to cook for some reason.
Yeah.
okay, well, this is going to give you like a real tangible in-game buff that's not game breaking per se.
You're literally the wizard's favorite person.
But he's
got 50% more hit points because of you.
Yeah. Obviously you're not probably going to be able to get your hands on tier 4 monster meat at tier 1.
No, not unless your DM's very kind.
Yeah. But you're still going to be granting a little bit more HP to everyone. Which people will be happy about, like you said, especially the Magus. Yeah,
it's 4 or 5 extra HP off a party that's got, 35 total.
Yeah.
At tier 1. That helps. Anything more than none means you're ready for action, baby.
Yes, it does. All right, so that's Tailor and Chef out of the way. Now, Scribe.
All right.
We're going to have some type of spell scroll system.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's going to be a whole lot you'll be able to do with the Scribe skill at level 1 per se, but it might help in certain
ways. But if you have
ways.
rune lore.
But if you have rune lore and Scribe.
Some sort of, what do they call it? Like a witness, but for documents.
Oh, a notary?
A notary, yeah. Like a notary public sort of function.
So you just continue to be a scribe even though you're an adventurer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can notarize that for you.
I'm certified. I can, do weddings and legal contracts. And
yeah.
Bureaucratically empowered.
Can create legally binding contracts.
Yeah. I don't know about can create. Can,
because now
because notary publics are like, they just have to be there to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. They can bear witness for legal proceedings, something like that.
There needs to be some flavor stuff.
Shorthand proficiency.
Yeah. But the eventuality is that a scribe would be able to create spell scrolls.
Yes. Although you probably need rune lore proficiency for that.
Yeah, I think you need rune lore proficiency, which helps you do a lot of things already.
Yeah.
But I think you have to have scribe and rune lore proficiency.
If you want to make scrolls.
Which are
probably pretty good in this game. Especially with how limited we have spells.
Yeah, with the way we have spells. And scrolls will... Of course, scrolls are generally going to be lower. Like, scrolls will be good, and because resources consumed when casting, scrolls are going to have benefit. But you can't, I suspect we'll have a limit. Like, you can't make really powerful spells into scrolls.
No, I mean, you can't make a war magic scroll.
No, you certainly can't make
anything convenient.
No, you certainly can't make a war magic scroll. But I even mean, like, you probably can't make a tier 4 spell a scroll. We might have limitations that say this is something that amount of magical power.
Yeah. Well, you probably just can't scribe a scroll that's more powerful than what you can cast. And there's a prohibitive material cost to putting stuff in scrolls because you're making a permanent effect. So it costs.
Yeah, I think I agree. It probably has to cost a substantial amount of money for the higher level spells. And I only say that because if we make casting off of scrolls somehow like use less magical resource, I don't know that we want to make it none.
Well, so to make a scroll, you'd have to get some sort of magical juice to put in the scroll, because normally when you cast a spell, you cast it with resource, but you can't scribe a scroll over the course of a combat.
No, of course not.
So you don't have any resource, so you have to use animal parts and magically charged gems and stuff to do it.
Sure. You're not just casting a spell into a scroll. And
saving it for later.
Yeah, that's not. I don't think we're not gonna have spell storing in our game.
Not really.
Not in that sense. We might end up having wands that or staves or something like that have magical properties. Don't know what we're gonna do with that.
Yeah,
but I don't plan on having anything that's spell storing, because the whole reason we're designing our system the way that it is so that big, powerful spells.
Yeah, combats build to quick, interesting conclusions.
Well, if you have big, powerful spells that you can cast on turn one, it changes the flow of balance for how we want spells to work, which is the reason that you need to generate resource to cast big, powerful spells.
Yeah, they're supposed to be good after 3 or 4 turns of being okay.
Yeah, not immediately.
Yeah, nuke from orbit round 1.
Which is a normal spellcaster thing.
High-level spellcasters in D&D at least is just rocket tag.
But it kind of nullifies in many combats, the majority of combats, it nullifies the need for a fighter.
Because, linear fighters and quadratic wizards is the problem.
Yeah. And I think the nature of how we're changing
we just decided they're both exponential.
Yes. Fighters on turn 1 are probably better than mages on turn 1. And on turn 4, mages are better than fighters, but fighters also improve.
Yeah, but that's true at tier 1 and tier 4.
Yes, it's true. It's true. Well, at tier 2 for sure.
Yeah.
Unless we have spells. We don't really have growing spells currently written for tier 1 maguses. But at tier 4, I think we definitely see the mage potential power is much higher, but he's got a lot of things coming online. He's got war magic. He's got, which is used separately and really powerful. But even in not the war magic, he has big, powerful spells that take time. So the first round of combat, fighter is still stronger at tier 4 than the wizard. But at turn 4, the wizard's definitely more powerful, but the fighter isn't. The gap should be less.
Yeah, no, it's the wizard isn't better in literally every scenario. The wizard gets better, but fighters don't become useless after tier 2.
No, they don't become useless. And even at turn 4, they've got their signature attacks or rage. Yeah,
also, they have the army they brought to back them up.
Yeah, whatever it is that they have.
Because they're a tier 4 general now, and their familiar Batman guy is actually a whole ass army of dudes.
Yeah, or they have the Warlock Boon class, and they're a caster too. They signed a deal.
They don't know magic, but they have a magical sugar daddy that'll help them out.
Yeah. So Scribe,
yeah.
That's what we were talking about. Can bear witness for legal proceedings and can create
make spells. Parentheses scrolls. Requires runecraft.
Yeah.
I think they should have something else, a little ribbon thing.
Well, something to do with writing.
Yeah.
We have the legal proceedings thing, so they need to have some type of writing-esque skill. And I don't know. It doesn't feel like deciphering code should be it. It feels like it more should be like, I know creating legal documents is concerning and potentially.
I'm just trying to think of a way to make can read and write more powerful.
Yeah.
Which, in Fantasyland of historical time is probably actually pretty cool, but all adventurers can do that. So it's not special for them.
Yeah. We're not going to hide can read and write
behind a singular profession.
Yeah. But I guess maybe can make some kind of, we'll figure out what it might mean, but can make special checks regarding written material.
Yeah. I mean, sure, they probably have code breaking and writing and stuff like that. So yeah, just a little skill about written documents and stuff too, to go along with their notary public skill.
Yeah, we might have to define the can make special checks regarding written documents a little bit more. But that, to some extent,
I imagine it's stuff like, what monster skin makes the best vellum for scrolls and
sure. I think there's going to be a lot of those things that you could argue for.
Papyrus paper, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Charcoal ink. Squids.
We'll end up giving that a loose definition, and then to some extent that'll be up to DM interpretation when someone tries to argue for for whatever it is.
It's not a scribe skill. But I want to carve my name into his flesh. All right, fine, but disadvantage.
Yeah. All right, and this surprisingly, I mean, you may have the answer right away for this one, but it seemed a little hard to me of like usefulness. Farmer.
Does a farmer just get a pet? You just have your most loyal farm animal come with you?
Has pet goat.
Yeah, pet goat, horse, cow, pig, dog.
That is an interesting idea. Well, we may define it as has a pack animal.
Yeah. It begins with mule.
Begins with some type of pack animal. I don't know if that's what we want to do, but I mean, it's not unuseful. It's just that thing can die.
Yeah. I don't know. I do like he has loyal farmhand companion. Like they just pick a tier 0 farm animal that they have.
Yeah, I'm not against it. They need a little more than that, though.
Yeah, I'm like, stuff like predict the weather.
Oh, yeah, something like an almanac.
Yeah, they have an almanac in their head.
Yeah.
They know what stuff is poisonous and what. I think, very specifically, they are very good at identifying monsters.
Oh.
Because they have to, because they can't fight them.
Yeah. They've had to do well because they don't live in.
A farmer just knows all about monsters because it's a cost of doing business if you live in a land with monsters and don't own a sword and are legally prohibited from doing so.
Well, and you're not in a city.
Yeah, you are out in the middle of nowhere. You need to know your business. And what lives around here is part of that business. Man, that feels good.
Yeah. Has an internal almanac.
Yeah. Monster knowledge.
Yeah.
Why would you pick farmer? Because you get a dog and you can roll to see what that dragon is. Yeah, basic habits of monsters.
Well, yeah, it could be that. I mean,
it's not like, oh, these things are weak to fire and they have a little hole in their scales right under their armpit that you can stab. It's like, oh, that's a dragon track. They live in caves. They only come out at night.
Sure.
Basic information, but over a vast quantity of creatures.
Yeah, basic knowledge, which is really weird to put on a farmer, but it doesn't not fit logically.
Yeah, right. Well, like in the Middle Ages, farmers probably knew bear track, deer track, wolf track,
sure,
mercenary track.
Yeah.
And if you got like basilisks and dragons and bears the size of houses.
Okay, so and this is going to be an interesting one. Okay, so it has an internal almanac, a basic monster knowledge. It starts the game with a tier 0 farm animal.
Yeah.
Doctor. So doctor can diagnose injuries.
Yeah. Triage, medical management, diagnostics.
Yeah, so it can do that. And of course, we don't have, at the end of combat, if you go down,
if
you get dropped, you get a wound.
Yeah.
But then you wake up after combat and you just suffer the effects of whatever wound you've gotten.
Yeah.
Be it first or second or the mortal wound. You just kind of suffer effects. So maybe doctor could speed the effect at which you would lose a wound through rest. Because I think we defined it as taking a week. Right now, like without treatment, maybe having a doctor in your party counts as treatment.
Yeah, it's having a doctor in your party counts as treatment for as far as wound healing goes, or no, counts as like bed rest or whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
You're treated as having the most advantageous condition for your wound healing.
Okay. So doctor. Party members are treated as being cared for when recovering for wounds. And we haven't defined that, but that's what I'm going to call it right now. We might come up with another thing. And then can make a check to diagnose illnesses or injuries.
Yeah.
We don't have a thing for instant removal of wounds aside from magic.
Yeah, no, I can't make your cut off arm come back.
Yeah. So, but this would be more for narrative purposes, or if we introduce poisons that have lingering effects.
Yeah.
We haven't really built poisons, and I suspect we will. But if you have lingering statuses, they could identify those.
Yeah, they could identify them, treat them, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's knowledge, surgery, hospitals, and infectious disease.
Yeah, basically. And that's honestly, to be honest, that's great right there.
Yeah.
I don't know that it needs any more. The big one, members being treated as being cared for.
Yeah, that feels like
that's our balance lever for doctor becomes really good if we say it's a week to lose a wound naturally, and this makes it 2 days.
Yeah, something like that.
Like 2 long rests instead of like 2 long rests might be something you could get through with a wound if you're careful.
Yeah.
And then not have to spend any resources.
If you're careful over the next 2 days, you're not going to get into a big fight where you're going to take another wound and have to start over.
Yeah. But a week is a long time.
Yeah.
I think that might actually be a week makes it to where we might make it 5 days and 2 days.
Yeah.
Maybe not 7. You lose a wound naturally after 5 days, but a doctor means you lose it after 2 days. That might be a better balance point.
Let's see.
We'll just have to see how fast a day goes.
Yeah.
Because days are going to move a little faster in a game only because combat should move faster. Which means that you should get through more theoretical days.
Yeah, it depends on
in a session.
How fast you can go through, I guess. We'll have to see how like social and downtime and stuff pad that out. But yeah.
This is true. There's a lot of things that could affect it. Guard. You remain on guard while resting. You can rest in armor with no penalty.
Free tier 1 armor proficiency.
Maybe. Did we put that on a race?
I think we put a weapon on a race. I think one of them got melee and one of them got ranged.
Yes, we did do that. We did not provide an armor proficiency. Okay. So a tier 1 armor proficiency, I like that. Do we want to have a thing that says that you can't sleep in your armor? Is that a thing that we want? I mean, it is more, I guess, immersive in one sense, but
honestly, we may just take that in entirely and just have no penalties for sleeping in your armor. I imagine the people who do it a lot get pretty good at it, especially if you're just a little bit superhuman.
Yeah, I mean, because the whole thing with that is all about, well, do you plan on having ambushes at night?
Yeah.
And how many interactions do you want that involve night ambushes?
How much do you want to figure out? Are you in your armor? Are you out of your armor? Maybe we just do away with that and say that adventurers are constantly paranoid. And if they can wear armor, they're almost always wearing it.
Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of that. I like the just you remain on guard while resting.
Yeah.
So you get.
Yeah, you don't take like raised by gnomes. You don't take disadvantage for being asleep.
Maybe we'll say you remain on guard while resting for up to half of a long rest or whatever.
Yeah.
For up to half of a full rest.
We can just say half the amount of sleep you need.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like that. Because that's essentially what it means.
Yeah.
It sounds weirder saying it this way, but mechanically it's the same thing.
Yeah. We'll make it more clear in the verbiage whenever we get around to actually writing it out in the book in a fancy game book language, but that's mechanically what it does.
I still think actually the other way we had it phrased might be the better way to phrase it. And I say that only because if sleeping is how you remove wounds, saying you require half as much sleep to achieve a long rest could arguably say like maybe you would heal a wound twice as fast.
Well, I don't think so, because it halves the amount of sleep you need, not doubles the effects of long resting. So you'd only be asleep half that time during the long rest, but you'd still only take one long rest a day.
Sure. Yeah. I meant from us writing it for less possibility of power game manipulation.
Well, I don't mind because, if you're in the military or whatever, you kind of get used to not sleeping a lot at night and just taking a lot of naps throughout the day.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no. And I agree with you. I just meant from a phrasing standpoint. Yeah, mechanically, it's the same. I just meant from phrasing. We can just call it efficient sleeper.
You have the number of hours you need to be asleep for the purposes of standing guard. Because we'll have a who's on watch thing in the downtime making camp thing for the little mini game we want to make there.
Sure. I'll leave it written how I have it, and then we'll give it.
As long as we know what it
does.
We'll
rephrase it to something very specific in the final product here. For merchant, which is our final one, number 12. I've just got haggling written down.
Haggling, yeah. Being able to haggle for prices is still pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, anyone can, but it's clearly going to be some type of advantageous.
Yeah.
Maybe treat it as a tier higher when haggling for prices on an item.
Yeah, maybe it's more stuff is available to you. Like a town is treated as a tier higher for the purposes of what's available.
Well, that's interesting. Just people are willing to sell things to you that they wouldn't sell to other people.
Yeah, the guy who's down the street who doesn't really have a shop but is a collector and sometimes lets pieces of it go.
So access to better items.
Yeah. What's your power? Capitalism.
Not a bad one.
Yeah, no, that's lucrative for sure.
Yeah, that's another one I think we'll spend some time fleshing out what that might mean.
Like the towns they go to have a little bit more cash to buy their 1,001 goblin scimitars.
Yes. If they can carry that many back to camp.
Yeah, it's your wagon full of copper pieces can actually be changed in the tiny little village, provided you have a merchant with you to talk them into it.
Yeah. I like the idea of being able to like sell mundane items for money.
Yeah.
Assuming, because there's a balance point here. I don't like that you basically can't sell anything for anything in a lot of TTRPGs.
Yeah.
Like nothing has any value. You can't sell it. I also don't like, I went to the guy who sells biscuits.
Yeah.
And I sold him 37 swords. Why did he buy 37 swords? What does he need 37 swords for? I don't like that either.
No.
So finding a balance point between, yes, you can collect mundane items and sell them for money, but you also still have to find someone who might reasonably want to buy these things.
There's like buying limits or whatever. Like, a hamlet has a GP limit of 1,000 and a village has a GP limit of 5,000.
Yeah.
And a town has a GP limit of 50,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, and depending on what you want to sell, like you can move up and down that.
Well, yeah.
Like they physically don't have the economical power or backing to buy that many scimitars. So you may be able to sell one or two, but bringing 50 is just not going to cut it in this tiny little village that you found.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Thorpe of Hamlet.
Yeah. Well, and what that, depending on the spacing between those categories and how much money difference there is, will probably determine how we would balance how much the merchant can increase it. Because it may not be a whole tier if the gaps are really big.
Yeah, it could be, 10% or something.
Yeah.
But they have more access to buy and sell than somebody who isn't a, dial trader.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Well, at least for our first draft for a playable, I think we're good. We've got 12 professions. We'll need to flesh out a little bit of some of these meanings at some point. But a lot of them are really pretty much done.
Yeah, it's self-descriptive enough that the people who wrote the game can run it.
Yeah. 12 professions is, I think, pretty good. At least for a starting run here. So we'll pick up with the next thing next time.
Sounds good to me, buddy.
See y'all later.
Spell you later.